My name is Katie West. I'm 22 years old, and the night my mother called me ungrateful was the last night I ever lived in her house. She didn't whisper it. She didn't say it in private. She slammed her hand on the table, looked me in the eyes, and said it in front of 9 people. $1,300 a month, and you still complain? You're ungrateful. Then she smiled and added something worse. We should have spent that money on your brother instead of you. No one spoke. Not my father, not my aunt, not even my grandmother, whose birthday dinner it was. And across the table, my brother just smirked. Because he knew something I hadn't said yet. Something no one at that table knew. I wasn't paying rent. I was paying their debt. Pattern interrupt. Let me ask you something. If your own family charged you money every month, would you ever ask where it was going? Or would you stay quiet just to keep the peace? I stayed quiet for 8 months. Every single month, I sent $1,300. No arguments, no missed payments. I even labeled it rent. That's what they told me it was. That's what I believed. Until the day I realized it wasn't rent at all. But that comes later. Because before everything fell apart, my family looked normal from the outside. Nice house, 2 stories, quiet street in Ohio, the kind of place where everything looks stable. But inside, things were never equal. My brother Cameron is 5 years older than me. He never paid rent, not once. He had a new truck, expensive equipment, endless business ideas that never worked. And somehow, there was always money for him. For me, there were rules, there were limits, and eventually, there was a bill. The day my mother handed me that number, $1,300 a month, she called it fair. She said, "You're an adult now. Adults contribute." So I nodded, and I paid. But I also did one small thing she didn't expect. I kept records. Every payment, every receipt, every message. I didn't argue, I didn't complain, I just saved everything. Because something didn't feel right. And deep down, I think I already knew. What I discovered one random Tuesday about where that money was really going didn't just explain everything, it destroyed my entire family. It started with something small, not a fight, not an argument, just an envelope. I came home from work one evening, dropped my keys on the counter, and saw it sitting there. Cream colored, already opened, half hidden under a catalog like someone didn't want it noticed, but didn't want to throw it away either. The return address caught my eye immediately. Buckeye Heritage Credit Union, the same place I had started working at just a few weeks earlier. I didn't pick it up. I didn't open it. I just read the part that was already visible. Home equity line of credit. That was enough. Pattern interrupt. Quick question. If you saw a letter like that in your house, something financial, something important, would you ignore it? Or would you start asking questions? I didn't ask, not out loud. But that night, I went home, opened my laptop, and searched my parents' address on a public records website. No passwords, no hacking, just public information anyone could see. And that's when I found it. A second loan, a $62,000 home equity line of credit taken out the year before. I stared at the screen for a long time because suddenly, things started making sense. My brother's failed businesses, the expensive equipment, the new truck. All of it had to come from somewhere. And now I knew where. Pattern interrupt. Let's pause for a second. Imagine this. You're paying money every month thinking it's rent. But in reality, you're covering a debt you didn't create for people who don't even respect you. What would you do? I didn't confront them. Not yet. I just did the math. That kind of loan? At the rates that year. The monthly payment would land somewhere around $500 to $600. Add in the main mortgage. And suddenly the numbers got tight. Too tight. That's when it hit me. My $1,300 wasn't rent. It was support, not for me, for them. And the worst part? They never told me. I closed my laptop, took a sticky note, wrote down the numbers, and added it to the folder because by then, I had already built a habit. Document everything. Say nothing. For the next few months, I kept paying, right on time, every single month. But something inside me had changed. I wasn't confused anymore. I wasn't guessing. I was watching. Watching my brother spend money like nothing was wrong. watching my mother act like everything was normal, watching my father stay quiet, like he always did. And most importantly, I was waiting. Because the real breaking point wasn't the money. It was the night my mother decided to humiliate me in front of the entire family. And she had no idea that I already knew everything. The dinner was supposed to be normal. That's how these things always start. It was my grandmother's birthday, 80 years old. The house was clean, the table was set, everyone was there. Aunts, uncles, my parents, my brother, 9 people in total. For a while, it actually felt peaceful. People were laughing, talking about work, vacations, random things that didn't matter. I remember thinking, maybe I was overreacting. Maybe I could just keep paying, keep quiet, and nothing would have to change. Pattern interrupt. Have you ever done that? Ignored something that felt wrong just to avoid conflict? Yeah, that's exactly where I was. Then everything shifted, not slowly, instantly. My cousin turned to me and asked a simple question. So, are you still living at home? I nodded. She smiled. Rent is crazy right now. What do you pay? And that's when my mother stepped in. She didn't answer the question. She didn't deflect. She didn't protect me. She set her fork down, looked directly at me, and said, "Why don't you tell them what you asked me this week?" The room went quiet. That kind of quiet where everyone feels it, but no one wants to touch it. I kept my voice calm. I said, "I just asked for a breakdown of what my rent covers." That's it. Simple, normal, reasonable. And that's when she did it. She slammed her hand on the table, hard enough to make everyone flinch. And then she said it, loud, clear, public. $1,300 a month, and you still complain? You're ungrateful. No one moved. No one spoke. Then she leaned back slightly and delivered the second line, the one that changed everything. "We should have spent that money on your brother instead of you." Pattern interrupt. Let that sink in, not in private, not in anger behind closed doors, in front of everyone. And here's the part people don't expect. I didn't react. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I didn't defend myself. I just kept eating. Across the table, my brother smirked, just for a second, but I saw it. My father, silent, didn't even look at me. Everyone else, frozen. Like if they stayed still long enough, the moment would pass. But it didn't. Because something shifted inside me in that moment. Not anger, not sadness, clarity. That was the exact second I realized. I didn't owe them anything, not respect, not silence, and definitely not money. I finished my plate, asked my grandmother if she wanted more food, helped clear the table, like nothing had happened. Pattern interrupt. Because sometimes the most powerful move is doing nothing at all. I didn't give her the reaction she wanted. And that was the first thing I took back. That night, I went upstairs, sat on my bed, and made a decision. I wasn't going to argue. I wasn't going to explain. I was going to leave. But the part no one saw coming, I didn't just walk away quietly. I walked away with something that would come back and destroy everything they were hiding. I didn't leave in anger. That's the part people don't understand. There was no shouting, no slammed doors, no dramatic goodbye. I went upstairs and closed my bedroom door and started packing. 2 suitcases. That's all I needed. Pattern interrupt. Think about this for a second. If you had to leave your home tomorrow, what would you take? And more importantly, what would you leave behind? I folded my clothes slowly, not rushed, not emotional, just methodical. Some things stayed. My childhood books, old photos, furniture, things that belonged to a version of me that didn't exist anymore. What came with me? My laptop, important documents, a few personal items, and one thing that mattered more than anything else, the folder. Every receipt, every payment, every screenshot, 8 months of proof. I didn't fully know how I would use it yet, but I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't leaving empty-handed. By morning, Both suitcases were ready. I walked downstairs early. The house was quiet. My father was in the kitchen, coffee in hand, same as always. He looked at me, just for a second, then looked away. He didn't ask where I was going, didn't ask why. He just said one word, softly. Katie. That was it. Pattern interrupt. And sometimes silence says more than anything else ever could. I set my house key on the counter, didn't make a speech, didn't explain. And I walked out. No one stopped me. I drove straight to my friend Brooke's apartment. She had already texted me the night before. Doors unlocked. Stay as long as you need. When I got there, the place was empty. She had left on purpose to give me space. There was a blanket on the couch, a glass of water on the table. That's it. No questions, no pressure. I lay down, and for the first time in months, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace, not happiness, not relief, just quiet. Pattern interrupt. Because when you remove yourself from a toxic place, the silence can feel unfamiliar. But it's also where clarity grows. The next morning, I went to work, like nothing had happened. Balanced my drawer, helped customers, smiled when I needed to. Because my life didn't collapse when I left. It got simpler. But back at that house, things were starting to crack. I didn't see it yet. I didn't hear it yet, but I knew it was coming. Because for 8 months, I'd been holding something together that was never supposed to last. And now I had stepped away. 30 days later, an envelope would land on that same kitchen counter, the kind of letter that changes everything. And that's when my phone started ringing, over and over and over again. 30 days. That's how long it took. 30 days after I walked out of that house, the system finally caught up with them. I didn't send anything. I didn't report anything. I didn't make a single call. I just stopped paying. And when I stopped, the gap showed. Pattern interrupt. Let me ask you something. If one person quietly holds everything together and then suddenly disappears, what happens? Everything falls exactly where it was already going. That's what happened here. It was the day before Thanksgiving. My parents came home, just like any normal day. Mail on the counter, bills, ads. Nothing special, except one envelope. Same cream color, same logo, Buckeye Heritage Credit Union. This time, it wasn't hidden. My mother sat down before opening it. That tells you everything. Some letters you don't open standing up. She used a knife to slide it open, pulled the paper out, started reading, and then she read it again because the first time didn't make sense. Past due notice. Amount owed, $615. Failure to pay may result in further action. That's when it hit her. The payment she thought was handled wasn't. Pattern interrupt. And here's the truth most people ignore. Debt doesn't disappear, it just waits. My father got home an hour later. She handed him the letter. He read it once, folded it, set it on the table, and said something simple, something final. We should have stopped. Not, this is fine. Not, we'll figure it out. Just, we should have stopped. That sentence carried everything. The food truck, the failed business, the loan, all of it. And for the first time, there was no pretending left. But my mother, she didn't sit in that truth. She looked at the letter, looked at the logo, and thought about me. Pattern interrupt. Because when people panic, they don't look for truth. They look for someone to blame. And I was the easiest answer. She grabbed her phone, dialed my number. I didn't answer. She called again and again and again, 14 times. By the 5th call, she wasn't crying anymore. She was angry. How could you do this to us? We raised you. This is your family. By the 7th, it turned into accusations. You knew. You planned this. You wanted this to happen. I sat there, phone on the table, listening, not reacting. Pattern interrupt. Because sometimes The strongest position you can take is silence. And then something changed. The last few calls weren't angry. They were quiet, tired, begging. Katie, please, I'm sorry. Just call me back. I listened to every voicemail, all 14, and I didn't respond to a single one because for 8 months, I had already said everything with my actions. But what happened next wasn't another argument, wasn't another fight. It was something colder. I agreed to meet them face to face, and I didn't come alone. I came with proof. 3 weeks later, I agreed to meet them. Not at the house, not somewhere private, a coffee shop, public, neutral, quiet, pattern interrupt. If you had to confront people who hurt you, would you do it alone in a closed room or somewhere they couldn't control the situation? I chose control Sunday morning. 10 a.m. I got there early, sat by the window, ordered tea, and placed one thing on the chair next to me, the folder, at 10:03. They walked in, my mother first, my father behind her. They saw me, walked over, sat down. There was an empty chair between us. For a second, no one spoke. Then my mother broke first. Kate, I raised my hand slightly, not aggressive, just enough to stop her. Let me go first. Pattern interrupt. Sometimes, the only way to be heard is to take control of the moment early. I opened the folder and started laying things out on the table. One by one, slowly. Receipts, all 8 months. Signed, dated, screenshots, every transfer, every memo labeled rent. Then the public record, the loan, $62,000 HELOC. My mother's face changed. My father looked down. I didn't stop. Next, a screenshot of her message. You don't get to audit your own family. Then, my brother's post, talking about his business, thanking my parents for support. I didn't need to explain it. It explained itself. Pattern interrupt. Here's something people forget. Truth doesn't need emotion, it just needs proof. I closed the folder, looked at them, and spoke calmly. I wasn't paying rent. Pause. I was paying your debt. Silence. Real silence this time. Not awkward, not uncomfortable. Final. I continued. $10,400 in 8 months. I covered your loan. While you told me I was ungrateful. My mother tried to respond. Stopped. Tried again. Nothing came out. My father didn't look up, and for the first time in his life, my brother wasn't there to smirk. Pattern interrupt. Because when truth shows up, people who hide behind it usually disappear. I leaned back slightly, kept my voice steady. I'm not paying anything anymore. Pause. And I won't be part of any conversation where I'm disrespected again. Another pause. If you want to fix anything, you start with an apology. Not to me, to Grandma. That landed because they both knew what happened that night wasn't private. It was witnessed, and it couldn't be undone. I stood up, didn't wait for permission, didn't wait for a response, and walked out. Pattern interrupt. Because closure doesn't come from their response, it comes from your decision to leave. Behind me, I heard my mother call my name. I didn't turn around because the conversation was over. But the real consequences, they didn't happen in that coffee shop. They happened over the next 3 months when everything they built started falling apart. And this time, I wasn't there to hold it together. What happened next wasn't loud, no screaming, no dramatic collapse, just consequences. Slow, quiet, inevitable. Pattern interrupt. Because real consequences don't arrive like chaos. They arrive like math. A few weeks after that meeting, my parents listed the house. The same house I grew up in. The same house I'd been paying rent to live in. Only now, they couldn't afford it. Without my $1,300, the numbers didn't work anymore. The loan, the mortgage, everything stacked on top of each other. And for the first time, there was no one left to cover the gap. Pattern interrupt. Think about that. for months. I was the difference between stable and falling apart, and they still called me ungrateful. The house sold, below asking. After everything was paid off, there wasn't much left. They downsized. Smaller place, less space, fewer options. My father called me once. No demands, no excuses. Just one sentence. I'm sorry. 3 times. I listened, and for the first time, it sounded real. Pattern interrupt. Because apologies only matter when they come without expectations. My mother, she wrote a letter. I know because my grandmother told me, handwritten, detailed, specific, not perfect, but honest enough. And sometimes that's the most you're going to get. My brother, he left, moved to another city. No goodbye, no explanation. Just gone. Pattern interrupt. Funny how the people who benefit the most and are usually the first to disappear when things collapse. And me? I signed my own lease. Small studio, second floor, quiet street, nothing fancy. But it was mine. I painted one wall yellow. Not because it looked better, but because I chose it. For the first time, I chose something just for me. No permission, no approval, no cost attached to love. Pattern interrupt. Because freedom isn't loud, it's quiet, it's simple, it's yours. I still have the folder, every receipt, every screenshot, but I don't open it anymore. I don't need to because it already did its job. It told the truth when no one else would. If you've ever been made to feel like a burden for simply asking for fairness, you're not alone and you're not wrong. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is stop paying the price for someone else's choices. If this story felt real to you, comment receipts below and subscribe for more stories like this. Quiet ones, real ones. Stories where people don't scream, they just stop.